we're not trying to be Jewish.
Right.
We're trying to be the whole Bible in context. And that's not Jewish.
Yeah, because I've had people tell me now that I'm starting to talk about my new way of life. Oh, are you Messianic Jews now? And I don't know what to say to that because I'm like, well, I'm not a label. Like I don't like the label, but
it's a loaded term, and within that term as well as Hebrew roots, both of those have like so much baggage.
Hebrew roots, I know it does.
It's a lot of baggage. So I think we've all sort of gone down the road of we don't want to identify ourselves necessarily with either one. We're really just trying to live out what Yeshua did and live out our faith according to that. And people want to put labels on you.
I'd like,
and you can't stop them.
For instance, I saw someone the other day that we used to go to church with years ago, and I told you about it, Pepper's mom, and she was, we homeschooled with that family, and she's like, "Where are you going to church now?" And I said, "Well, we found a home fellowship," and I said, "We're kind of Torah observing now," and she's like, "What does that mean? Are you Messianic Jews?" And I didn't know what to say to her because I'm like, I don't quite understand what the Lord's doing in my life. I learned how to tell somebody. But I said, we're not eating pork. We're sticking to the dietary guidelines in Scripture because God's law is eternal. And we are observing the Sabbath on the seventh day as the Lord set out in creation. And she was like, just kind of.
It is confusing for a lot of people because Messianic Jew is about the closest that we have because we have congregations and we know that many of them are like keeping the feasts and keeping the Sabbath and all that kind of stuff. So it really is like probably the closest that most people have to kind of inform and
everybody wants to put you in a box
because part of, this is just the way we are as humans.
Yeah.
We have to be able to put people in a box to know that we've sorted things the way that makes us feel
friend or foe.
And it is. It's the friend or foe. Is this a safe person or is this a dangerous person? And that's essentially what it's grounded in.
And for most people, Messianic Jew is harmless.
So if they think Messianic Jew, they can put you in the friendly category. They can be like, oh, they're a Christian. But they're just kind of doing this other stuff. Which is actually, in some ways, I feel like that's kind of a good thing. Because that means that they're not trying to put you in a category where you're like unsafe.
Yeah.
Heretic. I think the thing is that, and we've talked about this a lot, and I think we're going to continue to do so, is our identity. Yeah. That's really what people are asking. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
And I've always kind of leaned towards the simple answer of, well, I'm just trying to be a disciple of Jesus, and this is what Jesus did. Jesus celebrated these holidays. Jesus practiced his, who he is, was identified by these practices, and his disciples practiced their faith this way. So to the extent that I can do that, that's what I'm doing. I am a disciple of Jesus. And
disciples mimic their master.
You mimic your master. And if they want to quabble with the details of that, we're all, that's what the wider church is doing. But even within Messianic Judaism or Torah or whatever you want to call it, our identity is in the Messiah.
Yeah, and I think it does simplify it to say that, like to just say, I'm a disciple of Jesus,
and hopefully we can be the people that he recognizes as his followers.
Yep.
Hopefully, yes.
Yep. I don't know what God's doing, but I'm just following his word and following his spirit. And I think, honestly, oftentimes that's where most of us are.
Yes.
It's like, I don't understand all the inner workings of why God's having me do things this way necessarily, but I do know it says in his scripture to do this, right? And so it just becomes more comfortable. The more willing you are to be uncomfortable with the idea of like, I can't fit into other people's boxes, but I can try to look at how God defines us and identifies us and like fit into that box. Then people are going to be probably a little uncomfortable with it here and there. But I think the people who are genuinely like, I am a disciple of Jesus, will be like, we're on the same team, and I think that's a positive thing.
So I shouldn't end it with, unlike you, hell-bound, broad path person.
There are a couple of labels that I like. Like, I have tried calling myself a pronomian Christian.
Yeah.
And the people look at you like, are you calling me stupid?
Yeah.
Because they don't know what it
We'll
means.
leave it to Jay. Jay likes big words.
Yeah, I like pronomian too. But
It's a neutral word, but nobody knows what it
Nobody
means.
knows what it
so it's the
is.
Greek word for the law.
For
The
the
problem
law.
is
People
that-
who are for the law.
In Christianity, the law is
Yes.
that's not what the Torah means.
You're
The Torah
anti-media.
doesn't mean law. It means teaching
Instruction,
and
yeah.
instruction. So there's already prejudicial.
I did not know that. I thought it was the law.
It's the Torah means teaching and
Yeah,
instruction.
it contains law, but yeah, the word actually just means instruction.
And our translators gave it a negative connotation by calling it law because we're all like the law.
Yeah.
But it's our instruction. And Christ said that, you love me, you keep my commandments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's more than just love God, love your brother.
Mhm.
When you explain that to like some of my best friends, are like, "Oh, I follow the commandments, love God and love my brother." And I'm like, "Yes, but how?
Yeah.
How do we do that?"
Well, I mean, we know in our culture today, like love is defined so broadly.
Yeah.
That
love is up to personal.
you may say I love you, but your actions aren't telling me that you love me, because that's not how I understand love. Well, we can all make our own
Or
definition
they need
of
love is accepting someone unconditionally, no matter.
And God knows our nature. So it's like we're going to come up with our own idea of love. So He spells it out for us. He's like, yeah, you think you're loving, but let me show you what love is. And it's the bird. Don't take the egg when the mother's sitting on her. All the nitty gritty
The
details.
little things.
And God's like, this is love. I'll tell you what love is. You probably have a skewed idea of what love actually is.
Yeah, we do.
Well, since we're
Especially in this.
corrupted bodies, and I think it's a really interesting thing. Like, a lot of people like to think that God's hiding the ball. He's making it deliberately difficult for us.
Yeah.
But the reality is that His love is so great for us, and He wants us to learn to love like Him, that He's like spelling it out. And I think that's what's so cool. I'm like, He's like telling us exactly how to do it, which means that He wants us to know how to do it. And then that's when people reject, because they're like, I don't want anybody telling me what to do, right? And that's when you see the difference between people who in their hearts are lawless and people who really want to follow. And it's really, it's so unfortunate how culturally and in the world we take that, but so many people out there are looking for the path. They're looking for somebody to tell them exactly what to do. But then as soon as you tell them stuff like this, it's like, oh no, that's
Not
done
like
away
that.
with.
Not like
And you're just like, no, really, it's loving. Wouldn't you want your spouse to tell you, your spouse hates something that you do and just keeps getting really annoyed with you? And I'm pointing to Jay because
We don't have any of those, so she can point at
Jay
me.
never, ever, ever dislikes anything I do for him. There are plenty of things that I do, and he doesn't get that's the wonderful thing about Jay, is he doesn't get crazy about it and want to rip my head off. He just gets annoyed and will be like, I'd really prefer if you didn't do that, or I'd really prefer if you did this instead. And I hate the correction sometimes, to be totally honest, because my flesh is like, I like that. Why can't I keep doing that? But then it's like, well, isn't it great that He's telling me exactly how I can show care to Him?
Right.
It's
It's more frustrating
Yeah.
to not know what can I do.
because imagine the state of our marriage
What am I
if
supposed to be doing?
if he
What am I
doesn't
supposed to
tell
do?
me. If he doesn't tell me, then the state of our marriage, continues to devolve, and then what?
Yeah.
Right? So it's not loving, and I think it's the same in our relationship with God. It's the more He doesn't tell us about how He wants us to behave, the more likely we are to have a bad relationship with Him. It's
Yes.
just
And I think so much of what we came from the church is just a presumption of liberty. We presume so much on God.
Yeah.
And claim to know him and love him and honor him and worship him. And, I don't know that we did any of that, honestly, because we just presumed that we had liberty. The law was something that, only brought death. And it's just
It's a whole new
so
way of-
different. Yeah.
It's a whole new perspective.
When there's so much chaos and lack of clarity in the world, and then God's like, here's some clarity. Like,
Yeah.
you can know exactly what I want.
Well, when he says in Deuteronomy, this is what I'm giving you. The truth is not far from you. You don't have to go up to the heavens to get it. You don't have to go below the earth to get it. It's here. It's near you. It's in your heart. It's in your mouth. For him to explicitly state that it's not what the church has said is it's a ball and chain that God gave Israel so that they could realize they can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not what the scripture says. The scripture does not say that. It says it is. Now, we're going to mess up and we're going to do it for the wrong reasons, but God allows for that, and so it is such a relief to know that we don't serve a God that's like, trying to trick you.
Right.
Yeah. When it is a hard, like when I think about like what's hard about it, like it's simple, but it's difficult. What's hard about it is that we live in these fleshly bodies. So what's hard about it is that our flesh is like shiny object, shiny object, shiny object, like, and there's something we want, and we have to let go of that and lay that down to do this other thing that just doesn't give us the feels. It just doesn't do for us the same thing. But the more we do that thing, the more we realize that that's our identity, that that's really what God created us for, and the more satisfaction we get out of those things.